G'day, I'm Brendan Fisher from Vincent Music, and this video is going to demonstrate how to improvise with a limited number of pitches. So when most new improvisers encounter jazz, they have the idea that they should play a lot, or they have so many options that they kind of just fumble through and don't know exactly where they're going. So this exercise is going to demonstrate how to play concisely and make the most out of a chord progression. So we have three concepts we want to focus on: chord tones versus approach tones, then how to voice lead a chordal tone, and then elaborating this pattern into a phrase using rhythms. So we're going to focus on the major 2-5-1 in B flat major 7, which will look like this: C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7. So we're going to use a limited range of notes. We're going to go from G to D. This could honestly start here, here, or here. I'm arbitrarily choosing to start from the 5th and going up to a perfect 5th. Other options you could use include an octave, a minor 7, a minor 6th, and so on and so forth. So once you have figured out the range, now you want to identify what modes you are playing. In a major 2-5-1, we use a Dorian mode, we use a Mixolydian mode, and we use an Ionian mode. Now, within our limited range of G to D, this is what we have available as diatonic sounds. Now, when we figure out what range we're playing and what notes are diatonic, we want to figure out what are the chordal tones. So, in C minor 7, the chordal tones we have available within this range are G, B flat, C, and D. The chordal tones we have available in F7 are G, A, C, and D. Chordal tones we have available in B flat major 7 are G, A, B flat, C, and D. Now, if you do play an A over C minor 7, just resolve it up to the minor 7. And if you do play the B flat over F7, just resolve it down to A. Now, once we've figured out our chordal tones, we want to figure out what kind of approach tone pattern we want to use. So we have essentially three types of approach tones that we can use. We can use approach tones from below, we can use approach tones from above, or we can use surrounds. We can also add two approach tones going above and below. So if it was above, so once we've figured out the chordal tones and the approach tones, what we want to do now is take just a chordal tone. Let's say we're going to take G, and we're going to see how far we can play into the chord progression before we must change it according to the Handle with Care tone guidelines. So here we go. So that G is the 5th, it's the 9th, and then it's the 13th. So it's not the worst sound possible. Now, if we take A, it would have to definitely start on B flat since this is a Handle with Care tone. So we're going to go B flat. B flat can't really be played over F7. And then we have the 7th there. So now we're going to take the root of C minor 7, which works over all three chords. Now we're going to take D, which works over all three chords. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our selected approach tone pattern, I'm going to use 2 semitones below, and it will sound like this. Now, once you have mastered just approaching a chordal tone that voice leads through a progression, now you can think about adding a note after that chordal tone. So I'm gonna choose to use D, since it seems to work over each and every one of the chords. So if we're voice leading from B flat to A, this is what it will sound like. Correction. Now, what you can do is after you've mastered playing another chordal tone or another good note to play, you'll eventually realize that playing that for an extended period of time becomes boring, and you eventually want to hear something else. If you've been listening to a lot of jazz and actively listening to it, you would have ingrained within you an idea of where phrases should go. So now you want to think about adding maybe an extra note. So now we're going to think about adding 3 notes after our approach tones, and we're going to think about what rhythms that we can play. These 2. So we want to think about a structure, we want to think about developing, we want to think about maybe reducing. In this style, it's always better to think less will achieve more. So an example of what I'm talking about could be something like Now you may have noticed that I had played an F outside of the reduced span. That's really because my ears told me that might have been a good place to go. So when you are improvising in this style, don't be afraid to go outside of that span. It's not something to be completely strict about. If your ears are telling you to go somewhere that's worth going, go there. And that's how you eventually develop more intuitive phrasing while you improvise. So that's all I have for this video. I hope you found it informative, and I'll probably make another one sometime soon.